Welcome, friends around the world, and coming here from the United States, it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello, I'm Jeff. Hope you've tuned in before. If you're new, this is Astroscoop. This is my live stream episode number 9. So number 9. And tonight, we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things, but the most important thing is that we're in the sign of Pisces. So the last few months, I've been talking a lot about Capricorn, the Capricorn sun, the Capricorn transiting planets. I've been talking a lot about the Aquarius sun and the Aquarius transiting planets. And tonight, we'll refresh that a little bit, and we will talk mostly about Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. Mutable, indicating changeable and flexible and adaptable. Water sign, water meaning feelings and emotions is the main mode. So any of you having birthdays this week, February 23rd to March 2nd, comprises the Pisces first decanate. So let's just recap from last week. I talked about the Aquarius Pisces cusp at length here, and that just ended on the 22nd or 23rd. And that was a combination. You could be a late Aquarius, or you could have been an early Pisces birthday, but you have traits of both signs, but of course, you're only one sign. So now, today's February 24th, 2024. We are in full swing after coming off the cusp. We're in full swing for the last sign of the zodiac, sometimes known as the closet or dustbin sign of hidden endings, hidden happenings, and house of secrets, 12th house, which is Pisces. So hopefully Pisces people will tune into this, because Pisces is probably the most fascinating sign to me in a lot of ways. And of course, every sign and different placements are fascinating to astrologers for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because you've known people, you've had relationships, romantic relationships with people that have had those placements, you have close family relationships, or you have close friends that have those. So obviously it's personal to you and it's intimate. But Pisces, because it's the last sign, Pisces really comprises kind of traits of all the previous 11 zodiac signs, culminating in the 12th sign. And then, of course, in a month, less than a month now, which is great, we go into Aries and we start spring, which is wonderful. And then Aries will start the zodiac wheel all over again for the next 12 months. So this is really this is an ending, if you will. It's an astrological New Year ending. So not just December 31st, but March 19th, March 18th is really the end of Pisces. So between now and then, anyone you know that has a birthday is an absolute Pisces. And then there'll be 3 periods. We're in the first decanate now, like I said, February 23rd to March 2nd. And then there'll be 2 more decanates, Pisces 2, Pisces 3, and then the Pisces Aries cusp right when we start spring. So we'll talk a lot about that. And that'll be, I think when we get to Aries, after this long winter in a lot of ways, it's going to be a really good boost of energy for a lot of people. So let's talk about Pisces people born this week. So if you know anyone that's between February 23rd and March 2nd or 3rd-ish, they're an early to mid-degree Pisces, probably somewhere between 3 or 4 degrees to probably 11 or 12. So it'd be early to mid Pisces, but definitely a Neptune Pisces period. It's ruled by Neptune, and then the decan or decanate is also ruled by Neptune. So the number one thing for people this week is, and this applies to all Pisces people in general, but is spiritual. So there's a very strong spirit component to Pisces people born this week. Now, of course, if you know astrology, Pisces is ruled by Neptune, as I just mentioned. You have to look at the Neptune placement in the chart, because Neptune aspects can be very foggy and can cause confusion. They can create a beautiful flow and creativity, but it can also be confusing and foggy. So if someone's a Pisces and their Neptune is what's called afflicted, if their Neptune has some harsh aspects or too many challenging aspects, you really have to look at that Neptune sign in the house, and that's going to give you more information about how the Pisces person this week is going to use their spirit or spiritual energy. Now, I like to think of Pisces planets in general, generally speaking, any Pisces planet, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Pisces rising, there's an element of spirituality to the person. So even if someone doesn't consider themselves spiritual or religious, there's probably something in their nature that comes out of them from inside that they put into a hobby, their work, or the way that they care for their family and friends. There's a spiritual component there. And of course, spiritual means different things to different people. What you consider spiritual and what I consider spiritual is different. But in this way, there's kind of a tapping in. The Pisces person is kind of tapping into all the energies, like I mentioned, of the other 11 signs, and having sort of spiritual wisdom. So this is the last sign of the zodiac, and there's only 3 decans left before we start the Aries cusp. So there's a lot of spiritual wisdom. I mentioned wisdom in Capricorn and also Aquarius, intellectual and universal wisdom. But in Pisces, it's also universal in Pisces. It is the collective, but it's more the unconscious and the unconscious spiritual strength or wisdom that Pisces people can have, or they can have a profound lack of it because for a lack of trying, so to speak. You know, Pisces people born this week have a spiritedness. How about that word, huh? The thesaurus word, spiritedness about them, and it translates into devotional. So any Pisces I've known born this week, no matter what their job is or their hobbies, there's a devotional nature to them. They have a zeal and a devotion to what they're attached to emotionally. Now, this is similar. Devotional is also similar when we get to Cancer. Cancer people, Cancer, the moon child, can be very full of devotion in love and friendships. And with Cancer, it's more of caretaking. There's more of a protective nature. With Pisces, it's not necessarily caring or protective, but it's all this creative, watery emotions and feelings that they're pouring into their job or pouring into their community or their hobbies or interests. So any Pisces person born this week, even if they're very straight-laced or have a boring job or a mundane job, there's something, if you look deep enough, if they tell you, there's something in their hobbies or interests or pastimes that's going to have that element of spiritual and devotional to it, whether it's church, religion, philosophy, music, art, literature, poetry. It's going to be something very, very strong there. And unlike Pisces people born a few days ago, so let's say you were born on February 20th, you are a Pisces. Most years you're going to be a very early Pisces, but a February 20th person isn't truly in the first decanate. It's on the cusp. So a Pisces person would have some of the spiritual essence coupled with the Aquarian intelligence and the airiness that comes with an air sign. With here, this is much different. This isn't colored by the Aquarius air sign, although Aquarius can be spiritual as well, but it's a very different. Pisces has a very unique emotional feeling bent to their spirituality that no other sign has. And anyone that has major Pisces in your chart, or if you know people born this week, you'll know what I'm talking about, that these Piscean people have a certain something to them that's intangible. It's intangible for the most part. And they can be very earthy and very... Close that door, please. Close that door. Thank you. Excuse me. They can be very earthy, and they can be very earthy and sensual in a certain way, but they basically have an intangible quality about them in terms of the spiritual and the devotional and that spiritedness that I mentioned. So that's very, very important. And then, as I mentioned before, we have the Neptune ruler. And this kind of puts, this is key to understanding Pisces, especially this first week. The Neptune ruler gives them the ability or the feeling that they're on a higher plane. Now, this can be both a positive and a negative, in my opinion, as an astrologer, because if you are tuning into higher planes through meditation, through any kind of religious practice, or through Reiki or rituals or magic or anything like that, all these things that Pisces can be into, you can very easily become out of touch. So Pisces, more than any other sign, has a real danger of losing touch with reality and becoming out of touch with their family and friends that might actually be right next to them. So it's very important. I know I'm going to sound like a party pooper here. I'm all for having fun in life. I'm all for having, occasional drinking, or whatever else that helps people relax, and good friends, good music, all that good stuff. I'm for all that. But Pisces people, especially Pisces born this week that are pure Neptune, have to be really careful about alcohol, about not getting out of touch with reality through alcohol or drugs. And I mentioned that about the Aquarius Pisces cusp people as well, but more so for Pisces. Any practicing astrologer kind of knows that Pisces is stereotyped as, for lack of a better word, the addict. Anyone can be an addict, but Pisces energy is so impressionable and so easily influenced that there's a danger there. So Pisces people, that if you are into a higher plane, whether it's through religion, philosophy, meditation, astrology, spiritual practices, protect yourself, but do it when you're lucid. Do it when you're sober, not under the influence of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Try to be hydrated, and that's the coach in me. That's the coaching part of the astrology. I'm always teaching people and helping people have good habits. And some people think that's, being a party pooper. But as we all get older, when you have bad habits, those really catch up with you later in life. So you can't beat up your body the way you could at 20 or 25 or 28 that you can in your 40s and up, 50s and up. It's your body will take a beating. So Pisces people, there's that higher plane, especially for Pisces people born this week, because they have that devotional nature that's so strong. They pour that in. They often lose touch with friendships, and their friends can often see them as kind of kooky, for lack of a better word, kooky, zany, or even a little haughty, because now in the heart of Pisces, they're not haughty, but Pisces people often feel like they're above people. They're on a higher plane. They're more evolved. They're more spiritual. They're more tuned in. So that can come across as haughty, possibly, to other people that are on a different level or a different frequency or a different path in life. So Pisces people, very, very important. The next step, I know I always mention this, is grounding. Now that's important for all signs and everyone, especially the mutable signs, which we're going to talk about that a little more when we get to the transits. But the mutable signs, which is Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini, the mutable signs tend to be the most restless and the most able to influence others or be influenced, because they're versatile and adaptable. So if there's a lot of mutable in your chart, especially Pisces, grounding is so important. And however you do that, whether you do that with grounding products or just getting outside and putting your feet in the grass or the beach, the sand, putting your feet on animals, right? If your cat or dog is at your feet, that's really good for senior citizens because it reduces your blood pressure. It reduces anxiety just by physically touching an animal. Just the physical touch within seconds reduces anxiety and blood pressure. So if you can't get outside, gently, don't hurt your animal, but gently you can put your feet on your animal and, pet your animal with your foot, or do this with their chin. And that's grounding. The animals part of the earth, and cats and dogs are completely tuned in and they're charged with the earth. They're not blocking it. They don't think like we do. They don't overthink things and then get out of touch with their body. So definitely touch an animal if you can, and be around animals as much as possible. And that's really important for grounding. But Pisces loves all the wounded creatures in life, wounded people, wounded animals. Pisces often falls for sob stories and falls for the wounded birds in life and wants to help and fix and nurture and take people back up. And again, that's also with that devotion and being on a higher plane. Well, I'm tuned in I'm tuned in at a higher frequency, therefore I can help people. So I'm tuned at a certain frequency right now, and I'm sharing my wisdom, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm on a higher plane than you or lower. So I don't look at it in terms of ego. It's just my frequency, right? So some of this you'll listen to this, you'll listen to this now or later, and you might reflect on it, and you're going to take some of what I said and you say, oh, that's interesting, let me make a note of that or look that up, and you'll discard some of the rest. Some of it might not be interesting to you or boring even. So obviously I'm on a certain frequency, but you have to be on your frequency, and that's what Pisces people are good at. Pisces people are good at tuning their own radio into their own frequency. That's why they can be out of touch. But the upside of that, what's the upside of that? It's incredibly psychic communication talents with people and animals. Pisces, effortless. This week, the spirit, it's effortless for Pisces people. Even if they haven't studied anything officially or taken courses. I know there were a lot of courses in the 70s and 80s on psychic development, much of which my mother took. And other people back then, late 60s, 70s, early 80s, that was a big surge there. So, Pisces people have that natural ability in this week. So if they develop it safely and in a clear way, they can really, really be grounded, and they can be psychic and have really, really an effortless communication with people and animals. So that's the beauty of this first pure Pisces decadent, that's the upside, and no other sign, probably no other week in the whole zodiac year. This is probably the only week, the only 7, 8, or 9 day period where there's an incredibly natural flow to everything they do. It's probably rare that you would meet someone this week that you would consider rigid. Again, depends on how they were brought up, their life experiences, and also their birth chart. If they had a stellium in Scorpio or Taurus, they would be a little different than maybe your average Pisces. But generally speaking, would be a flow here, and that flow is spiritual. That flow is emotional. So the grounding is so important for another reason, because Pisces people born this week, and all Pisces, they infuse everything they do with emotion, but that's not always healthy or balanced. The Pisces can go way off the deep end with their emotions, either positive or negative. Have you ever caught a strongly Piscean person on a bad day when they're having a stormy day emotionally? Yeah, look out. So that sweet, easygoing person now is, it's like Neptune. The waves are crashing and lightning storm. So, Pisces has that ability to be, so sweet and calm, but also can be stormy. And part of that's because Pisces usually is in touch with those emotions, where maybe some of the other signs might block it more. We might, the other signs, we might block it more. But Pisces doesn't usually block. There's not a lot of blocks in a pure Neptune Pisces person. All right, just checking the time. Coming up on 8. Looks like we have 2 people. Thank you. I'm just going to say welcome. All right, thank you for attending tonight. Take a little drink here. I'm trying to do a lot more posting and advertising about my live streams now that we're getting into just about a couple months here. But it's hard to get people. I'm going to try different times as well. I know I changed it from 8 to 7:30, and I'm probably going to do an earlier one, maybe even on a Friday evening or an afternoon as well. So try some different times. But let's get back to the grounding piece with Pisces. The grounding piece can come from incorporating their opposite, which is Virgo 1. So this is a Pisces 1 decadent, Pisces 1. The opposite 6 months from now, we'll be talking about early Virgo when we start Virgo 1 people, which is a Mercury sign ruled by Mercury, the planet of cleverness and communications. So a Pisces 1 can incorporate their opposite qualities by either being with a Virgo person, having a Virgo 1 friend or partner. That partner can take some of the diffuse, obtuse Pisces energy that's flowing everywhere, every which way but loose, and bring it down to earth, ground it a little bit, and put it into something practical. Virgo 1s are good at that. Virgo 1 could also put a wet blanket on it. Virgo 1 could squash it or be critical of it. So it depends on the grounding and being practical, or being overly practical and maybe a little dry about it, because Virgo 1 is a little more unemotional in its approach to things. So that's very important, the grounding to incorporate. And speaking of that, the late stage of life I mentioned, which is this Pisces sign, wisdom and empathy. So again, being the last sign of the zodiac, it kind of equates to maybe someone that's in their late 70s or around 80. It's the end of life, kind of, right? If you think about it in terms of personology. And so this Pisces person, I can think of one Pisces person that our family knows, and this woman just turned, actually yesterday, she turned 48. She's 48 years old, and she is there's something so incredibly youthful about her. you would never think she was 48 years old by her attitude and her energy. She does burn herself out. She overflows with her emotions. She puts all her emotions and devotion into her job and her hobbies, but she burns herself out. She completely runs out of gas because, you're approaching 50. You can't do it the same way you could at 25 or 30, most likely. But yeah, so youthful. But there's that wisdom and empathy being the last sign. The positive Pisces person, especially Pisces this week, can effortlessly empathize with pretty much any creature, anyone, the earth, plants, animals, and their fellow human being. And a real true empathy, as if they've had that pain or suffering, possibly in a past life with reincarnation and at some level. I'll bet there's a lot of hypnotherapists and past life regression people that are Pisces. I would guess that, or have major Pisces in their chart. Past life regression and hypnosis people, and/or you could throw a magician in there as well, because Pisces can also be a tad glamorous, and this decadent is no exception. So that wisdom and empathy pushes them into causes. Right? If they're so spiritual and devoted, there's no doubt they're going to get into causes. And Pisces always loves a good cause. I think with Pisces people, it tends to be more pro animals than pro people. I think Pisces people find it easier to relate to animals and the earth and creatures. Sometimes it's harder with their emotions and being easily hurt with people that are harsh, or if they're standing up for something with a cause, chances are the group against them is oppressive. Doing something to people or animals that is mean or hurtful or abusive. So Pisces does not like that. Pisces is very easily offended and hurt, most likely by that. So that's the late stage of life kind of symbology of being this last sign. But before we get to the celebrities, because we're coming up on 8, I have all the celebrities here, and we're going to talk about them. You want to take a look at them really quick. Oh, amazing amount of celebrities this born this week. I know I can't show you my screen. I apologize for that, but I'm going to look at the transits right now, so I can give all of you, but especially those of you that have Pisces planets or are a Pisces, and if you've had a birthday in the last week or this coming week, this will very much apply to you as well. Now, you may or may not know that today, a little earlier today, the sun at 5 degrees of Pisces opposed the moon in Virgo at 5. So I mentioned before the Pisces-Virgo polarity, the dreaminess and the grounding or practicality, coming together. So that's what we've had today. We still have the moon at 11 degrees of Virgo right now. So that's a good counterpoint to the transits here. Because now, as you know, I've been talking about all those Aquarius planets. Pluto is only at 1 degree now, but we have Venus and Mars, which is love and sex, conjunct in Aquarius. And I think I mentioned last week that could really throw an interesting monkey wrench into dating and love and marriage, and make things a little weird, but fun. So, have some fun with people safely. But the main thing is, and for any of you that have looked at the transits, you can go on any of those astro websites and it'll say current planets. Then just look at the list. You can look at the wheel and you can see the houses in real time, or you can just see the list. And the list is good enough. So if that's also very good if you're a beginning astrologer, you can just quickly see what the sun and moon are in, and then try to figure that out. But as I mentioned, the sun's at 5 of Pisces. Mercury now has just entered Pisces from Aquarius. So our collective thinking is a lot different now than it was a few weeks ago when it was in Aquarius. The Mercury in Aquarius placement in astrology is really, really well placed and has a really natural universal intelligence for almost anything. Now, Mercury in Pisces doesn't necessarily have that. The Mercury in Pisces can be kind of fuzzy and cloudy, a fuzzy, cloudy way of thinking or seeing things. Now, it can be very psychic. It can be extremely creative. That's wonderful for writing, poetry, or music. And it can effortlessly absorb, information and subjects and then teach in a very unique way. That Mercury in Pisces is very fluid thinker. So that's our collective thinking right now is Mercury in Pisces, but it's not the clearest. It lacks some of the clarity that we saw in Aquarius. So it's important that, again, especially Pisces people right now, if you're getting conjunctions to any of your planets, I would be very, very careful about overdoing any drinking, drugs, fun, or just burning yourself out, burning out your energy. Because the fuzzy thinking, it will stimulate your creative juices, no doubt, and maybe even psychic flashes as well, if you're tuned into that. All this Pisces energy. Saturn sits at 9 degrees of Pisces. And you hear a lot of astrologers talking about Saturn. So Saturn is helping Pisces born this week with a conjunction. So we're going to come up in a few days on a conjunction to Saturn. Now that's not easy. That's hard. That's serious. But that's good for Pisces. That's good for this Pisces energy in the cosmic sky right now. Pisces can be a little lackluster. Pisces can even be a little lazy, procrastinating, and not as grounded and practical as like we mentioned in Virgo. So this will help Pisces not take the easy way out in this solar return right now where you are, because Saturn is the taskmaster, Saturn's lessons, and it's in Pisces. This can also create some sadness or melancholy, which probably will pass. Most likely, it won't be permanent. Hopefully, it won't be, and it will pass. But Pisces planets that are between, let's say, 5 and 10 degrees will feel that. And then as Saturn moves up through the year, the mid to late Pisces planets, and of course, we'll talk about that when we get there, will get their conjunction and feel that seriousness of Saturn. Saturn is a beautiful thing in astrology, and if you'll see this, so many astrologers in articles and videos, because out of all the planets are important, and they create a pie. They create all these different focal points, but Saturn is everything to do with time and its cycles. So time and cycles, that's a really good way to learn astrology. And if you're doing astrology and you're not looking at cycles, cycles of 3 to 4 years, cycles of 7 years, and you're not seeing those patterns, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because Saturn really works the lessons in stages in time. And of course, Capricorn planets, anyone that has Capricorn planets knows that it works in stages, and it can hit you very serious, but then it passes, and hopefully you learn something, and you learn something that's lasting. That's a good thing about Saturn and Pisces. For these Pisces planets, is something that can be lasting. The part of fortune planet, which some astrologers put emphasis on, I don't put too much importance on it, but it can be a lucky point, focal point in a natal chart in the tropical astrology, and it's at 23 degrees of Pisces. So spiritual union is important to a baby born today. So if you had your part of fortune in Pisces, it's not really a planet, but it's a point. Spiritual union could be important to you, and that would be more emphasized if you had other Pisces planets, obviously. Neptune continues to be in Pisces. It's now late at 26. So there I mentioned the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, part of Fortune, and Neptune, all in Pisces right now. Wow. And they're running the gamut because the Mercury just came off the Aquarius Pisces cusp, and Neptune is getting closer to Aries. So that's going to be the Neptune Pisces Aries cusp. But there's a lot of fuzzy energy going on, and there should be some, you know, there should be a lot of changes with anything to do with liquids, whether that's wine, the wine beer trade, marine life, even the way we get goods and services. A lot of those come up by boat, and there's been a lot of problems with the docks and those containers. Remember, there was problems during COVID with the delay of those containers were sitting out in the middle of the ocean and getting locked. The product that you ordered took 3 months to come because it was just sitting in there in a box. So things like that, with that Pisces rules, so certain goods and services. There's going to be a lot of focal energy here, I think, coming. And there's a lot of astrologers now that do all these kind of complicated mathematical techniques, which I don't necessarily do. I don't really see the need for that, but some people do that and can really pinpoint in certain months, almost like a financial planner, certain months where the market or inflow of income and goods and services are going to change, and where they're going to peak, and maybe where they're going to dive, kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. But tons of Pisces going on. And then we have the moon, as I mentioned, the moon in Virgo, and the Earth focal point is also in Virgo. And there's no major Scorpio, which is a trine to Pisces. So for Scorpio people, you'll be getting the trine from the Pisces planets, but there's not a lot of going on, particularly with your planet with your sign in the chart. And Cancer is intercepted in the 10th house of the public tonight. So Cancer as well. No planets, you're intercepted, so you're kind of hiding, you're kind of laying low, but you're also getting the trine, and you will get the trine from your Cancer planets with these Pisces planets. So a lot to talk about. We still have a lot of Aquarius, and then this Venus and Mars Aquarius planets, of course, those are going to go into Pisces as well. So, I mean, in the coming months, just like so much Pisces. And then when we get into Aries and Taurus, we'll change it up, and we'll get into balancing out some of this water and some of this confusing, kind of dreamy. Pisces is like a dreamy, foggy kind of sign. It's kind of like if you know the horror movie director John Carpenter, who did the movie Halloween. He also did a movie called The Mist, or I think it's The Mist or The Fog. He's like a Stephen King kind of guy, and he does those kinds of movies that they're always very dark and misty, and they're kind of very Neptunian. There's always fog and hard to see, and the dialogue and the plot isn't always clear. It's kind of fuzzy. So he's probably got some major Neptune there. I'll have to look him up. He's a Capricorn. But yeah, so it's kind of like a John Carpenter movie with all the fog with the Pisces. Then of course we still have the Uranus and Jupiter and Taurus, as I mentioned last week. Not much of that's going to change for a while. And the node, as I mentioned, affecting the Aries planets. And then just the other signs, Virgo, you have your moon today. Libra, not much going on. Sag, Capricorn is also intercepted. Taurus, as I mentioned, Jupiter and Uranus. And Gemini, you're at the top of the chart right now, but not much going on with Gemini. And a lot less emphasis with Gemini and Libra because there's less air for those trines than when we had Sun and Mercury in Aquarius. And I was mentioning how Gemini and Libra were getting the trines. So less influence on the air signs now, and more influence on the water signs. All right, let's check the chat. All right, we still have 2 people. Okay, so all right, so we're at about 10 after 8 right now. So obviously in the coming weeks, we're going to talk more about Pisces. I don't want to talk all about Pisces in one in one live stream, but there is a lot to talk about Pisces. I could go on and on and on. I would love at some point to get a Pisces guest, a live guest, either with me here in my studio, or on a Zoom or something, and have a Pisces person call in, uh, or even on the phone. That would be cool. So if anybody's a Pisces, and you want to do that now or in the future, I would welcome that. That would be a wonderful thing, because Pisces is such a fascinating sign, as I mentioned. So let's get on to the celebs. So I know I always say this about every sign, but the Pisces celebrities born in the next 9 days or so, off the charts in terms of creativity, but also very marked trouble, you know, trouble or sorrow or sadness in their lives as well, unfortunately. And we see a lot of that with, Hollywood and music industry. It's kind of brutal, I think. But Pisces people are attracted to it. Pisces people have a natural affinity and talent for singing, dancing, acting, glamorous, theatrical productions. Leo's not the only game in town when it comes to theater and being theatrical. Pisces can be very theatrical, especially because Pisces can kind of be someone else when they're acting. They don't have to be, if they're shy and introverted, they don't have to be that shy introverted person that they are at home in their personal lives. They can be more engaged. They could be more like a Leo, right? In a way, they could command the stage and be more like a Leo on the stage or in a movie, and really tuning into the feelings and emotions of a character. So let's go on to the celebs. So here we have Fats Domino. These are all celebs born this week. So this is not Pisces born just any period. These are basically Pisces 1 people. And I know that sometimes I get comments. Some astrologers will comment on my cusp videos, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the constructive criticism, or please keep those comments coming. I'm not offended by those in the least. If you disagree with me or you have an insight because you practice a similar branch or even a different branch of astrology, let me know why you disagree with my cusp, and let me know why. Because I can learn from you. Let me know which branch of astrology, what you're referring to, especially if it's the decan. I know some of you have left comments about that you disagree with the decanate, and there's a lot of different articles on the web from magazines and astrologers where the decans are a little off. But this is the basic decan for the personology zodiac wheel. Again, some people might go to the 21st or 22nd, or they might go to the March 3rd or 4th. But this is basically pure spiritual Pisces time. So Fats Domino, Johnny Cash, those are two major figures in music that were so Piscean. If you look at their faces and their smiles, and their Pisces people tend to have a fleshiness to their faces. It doesn't mean that they're overweight or fat, but they tend to be fleshy, like a fish, like a sea creature. There's a puffiness. That's it. There's like a puffiness or fleshiness with both Fats and Johnny had, and I know Johnny, obviously Johnny Cash. Most people know some of the troubles he's had in his life, but undoubtedly a very creative, flowing Pisces talent. Another singer named Jazz Coleman. He's from a group called Killing Joke, a post-punk British group from the late 70s and 80s. Very kind of dark, grungy kind of punk music, but very creative and very emotional. Really, really good vibe. Pisces people put that's the word, vibe. Pisces, the sign of Pisces is a vibe. So, any of you that know Pisces people, Pisces people are a vibe, whether they're negative or positive, it doesn't really matter, but they are a vibe, and Pisces planets are a vibe. Pisces planets can be so amazing and comforting and sweet to be around, but they can also be very defensive and moody and cranky and hurtful, or I'm feeling hurt, easily hurt. So it's not easy, and it's not easy for these musicians. They're putting all those emotions and feelings, they're devoting it into music. So it's easier. So in their personal lives, it's not as easy. You know, if they feel like they're on a higher plane, it's not as easy to deal with the mundane realities of everyday life. So those are some singers. Then Joanne Woodward. Um, and I believe she's still alive, I think. So, of course, she was with Paul Newman, and they spent a lot of time in Connecticut and did activities and events and causes in Connecticut. She was an absolute cause activist person, along with Paul Newman, and the food and the donations and charities, right? And I believe Joanne Woodward was very religious, right? She was a devoted churchgoer as well. I know some people on the East Coast that have seen her, at either church or functions. So I'm pretty sure she's alive, but I have to look that up. And of course, the epic, no introduction needed, Liz Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, have you just look up, and I know it's not about looks or superficiality, but look up in their prime when they're in their 30s or 40s. Look up Joanne Woodward, or a picture of her and a picture of Liz Taylor. That's Pisces. Look at their eyes, the glamour of their hair, their fleshy, soft face. That is Pisces personified. Yes, they were gorgeous and beautiful, but there's a vibe there. It's a spark. It's a vibe. It's just a vibe. So look them up. Beautiful. But Liz Taylor, as we know, has been married 8 times. Whoa. Liz Taylor been married 8 times. Poor Liz. And she's had her troubles and has been quite tortured. But when I mentioned James Dean a couple weeks ago in my live stream, she acted very well with James Dean. And she loved acting with James Dean, she said in interviews. So not only Natalie Wood clicked with James and had a vibe with James, but Elizabeth, I don't know if Elizabeth Taylor was ever linked romantically to James Dean. Probably. There might have been something there. But but Liz obviously in Hollywood is connected to many major Hollywood epic actors, including the legendary Richard Burton, which she was married to several times, 2 or 3 times, I think. But yeah, 8 times married. And Liz had the Pisces moon, Pisces sun, and the Scorpio moon. So that's brutal. That's kind of brutal. It can be beautifully psychic and creative and sexy, but really can be really tough to deal with that emotionality and hypersensitive dealing with daily life. The next 2 guys that are born this week, 2 days in a row, Neil Sean and Jonathan Cain, and they're from the legendary group, the original founding members of Journey. I'm a big Journey fan. Journey, the legendary rock group from the 70s and 80s, and they're still touring today. They're on a reunion tour this year. Now, they don't have the legendary Steve Perry anymore. He's retired. They have a new singer, a Filipino singer. But Neil Sean and Jonathan Cain are both 2 Pisces people that I believe infused the Journey's songs. Journey's songs are so beautiful. Man, woman of any age. You can call them corny, you can call them sappy, call them whatever you want. But they're undoubtedly so beautiful and poignant. And Neil Sean is the guitarist, and Jonathan Cain is the keyboardist and main songwriter. He wrote a lot of the songs with Steve. And Steve Perry was an early Aquarius on the Capricorn cusp. And Steve just has a voice of an angel. But obviously, most people know about Journey. I mean, Journey's a worldwide, they have worldwide fans. So, you know, everyone knows Journey, Don't Stop Believing. They have a song called Faithfully, Open Arms, Send Her My Love. Don't Stop Believing is an anthem. It's played at sporting events and, you know, big arena shows and stuff. But listen to some of the other ballads that they have, like Faithfully, Open Arms, so poignant. And you'll hear the guitar work of Neil Schon sounds like seagulls. I'm not kidding. He does hard rock guitar. He used to play with Carlos Santana. He's a consummate virtuoso. So he studied under Carlos Santana in the 60s and 70s. But in Journey, it's all watery, beautiful, electric energy, and it sounds like seagulls. And Jonathan Cain's keyboards are just immaculate and clean and beautiful. Again, listen to it and tell me it sounds religious. It sounds like church to me, or spiritual, but not like religious in a God sense. It's just like the music is religious. It's just the vibrations are beautiful. So I know I'm going on a Journey tangent. Maybe I'll do more of I'll go into more of that. We could talk more about Journey songs. But if you haven't heard Journey, I know most of you probably have, go to YouTube or Spotify or Pandora. You got to listen to Journey and listen to the guitar and listen to the keyboard, because those two guys are Pisces, and listen to them, especially if you're a music person. Next, we have Cindy Wilson. She is a singer, co-founder, and songwriter of the group, the new wave group B-52s. They're a crazy, wacky group from Georgia, and they're part of the new wave alternative rock scene from the late 70s into the 80s and well into the 90s. And they're still touring. They've come back, and they're really getting up there in age. Most of these groups here are 70 plus. You know, God bless them. I mean, these musicians are still touring and doing 3 or 4 months of touring in different states, and most of them are in their 70s. So I give them so much credit. But if that's what they love, again, Pisces, very devoted. Let's see, what do we have? And then coming up here, we have the next column. Ian Stanley is he is a British producer and musician, and he helped create the beautiful music of Tears for Fears. So another group, another homework assignment. Go on to Pandora, Spotify, or YouTube. Everyone knows Tears for Fears. Head over heels, shout. Everybody wants to rule the world. But Ian Stanley was instrumental. There he is. Instrumental in helping Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith of Tears for Fears get together, because he produced and gave them their sound. Because they were just teenagers. They were literally just, they were good musicians, but they weren't polished. They didn't know how to do anything in the studio. They didn't know how to work machines or tape loops or anything. So Ian Stanley, being a Pisces, he put that spirit into Tears for Fears. So if you listen to music for Tears for Fears from an album called The Hurting, it's a dark album from 1983. It's unmistakable Pisces. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Carolyn. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. One love, one love. But yeah, so Ian Stanley, if you listen to the 1983 album, The Hurting from Tears for Fears, the music is just beautiful. It's a little rough because they were so young. I think they were 20 or 21 when they recorded it. And he was probably just in his mid-20s. So they were just almost like kids, but he's amazing. And then Phil Gould, I follow Phil on Instagram or Twitter, and he's actually responded to some of my tweets, which is nice. He seems like a very nice guy for a famous musician. He's the drummer. He's the ex-drummer of the legendary pop rock group Level 42, who were a jazz group in the 70s in Britain. They did the jazz club scene in London, and then they came and they got crossover success in the States in the 80s and 90s with hits like Running in the Family, Lessons in Love. They're on FM radio all the time. So Phil Gould, He's awesome, awesome drummer. And he also co-wrote some of the songs along with the lead singer, Mark King. Um, beautiful, beautiful stuff from Level 42. And there's also another Pisces in that group that I didn't mention. He's born a different week, but there's another one. So Roger Daltrey is the iconic lead singer from the Bohemian rock group The Who, right? The Who from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. He and Pete Townsend are still going. I think they're are they mid 70s now? My gosh, amazing. The devotion, I guess it's the spirit that keeps them going. So he's amazing, and he has such a grovelly, kind of aggressive voice for a Pisces, but it's full of emotion if you listen to the Who's music. And then Nick Kershaw is a pop alternative artist from London again. It's all about London, right? All about England, Bath and London, England, and Manchester. It's where all the great musicians come from. Nick Kershaw, 70s and 80s and early 90s, pop rock, very, very flowing and easygoing music. He's great. He's on tour as well. He's doing 80s festivals this summer. And then the next one is the legendary and kind of sad, melancholy Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters. She and her brother Richard. And poor Karen Carpenter. If you look at some of those videos when she used to sing and when she was losing weight with her eating disorder, very, very sad. And Pisces people can have a very tough time dealing with the stresses and pressures of life, let alone fame, fortune, or money. And especially Pisces women can have even a more tougher time. Not more tougher, but just tougher. And at that time, 60s, 70s, that was a tough time to make your way as a woman. So I give her a lot of credit. But she's obviously amazing. Her voice was just crystal clear and so beautiful, pure emotion. The next one is Dale Bozzio. She's from a group called Missing Persons. And she was married to the co-founder of this new wave group from the 70s and 80s who all had connections to Frank Zappa. So Frank Zappa, another icon, just like Quincy Jones, just like James Brown, all those big guys from the 60s and 70s that helped create all these branches of music. All this weird stuff that created all this beautiful popular music. Dale Bozzio, she's amazing. She was an ex-Playboy playmate, so there's a little bit of the Pisces glamour there, and beautiful, but she's really cool. She has a great voice. She's very underrated. Music of Missing Persons, and I love Dale Bozzio. She's awesome. You wouldn't have any of the modern singers today. You wouldn't have Taylor Swift. You wouldn't have Pink. You wouldn't have Lady Gaga. You wouldn't have Avril Lavigne. Ciara, Rihanna, you wouldn't have any of those ladies if Dale Bozzio hadn't influenced them. She's a better singer than all of them. John Bon Jovi, most of you know him from the 80s and 90s rock group Bon Jovi, and he's had a lot of success. I don't care for Bon Jovi's music very much. That's probably on very low on my totem pole. I appreciate his talent. He is a songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and he has that whole spiritual, earthy Jersey thing going on, right? He's spiritual, but he's earthy, and the Jersey people love him, especially the Jersey women. He's still got the women swooning over him, so he's doing something right. So John Bon Jovi's born this week. I hear he's losing his voice, so John, I hope you get your voice back. Good luck with that. And then the last one, we're coming up on the hour here. Let's see. Last couple is Chris Martin. Now, just keep in mind, these are all Pisces just this week. Just this week. We're not talking about the whole month of Pisces. It's just unbelievable how many amazing celebrity actors, actresses, and musicians are Pisces, especially pure Pisces. Wow. That's why I really want to talk. I want to talk to more Pisces people born this week, and I want to interview them, and I want to find out what makes them tick, because when you look at this list of talent, it's pretty amazing. But Chris Martin is the lead singer of the worldwide group Coldplay, again from where? England. So he's I think he's turning 47, I believe, 46 or 47 this week. And he's had immense success with his pop alternative group Coldplay. From 2000 was the debut album, and his music is beautiful. Chris has a very high falsetto, and he's a songwriter. He plays multiple instruments in the group, but he does the singing with the piano, which is so Pisces to me. This beautiful piano with the singing. And if you get a chance to listen to Coldplay, listen to their debut album from 2000, which has Yellow on it. It's just beautiful alternative rock. It's one of the best albums of the last, I'd say, 40 years, 30, 40 years. No, 40 years. Definitely one of the best albums. Chris Martin. Then the last couple, again, we're on musicians again, more musicians. Chris Hughes is another producer like Ian Stanley. Believe it or not, another English producer. Can you tell I appreciate English talent, British talent? I think I was British in a past life, because I tune into these people. But Chris Hughes is an amazing underground producer. He helped produce the legendary punk new wave group Adam and the Ants, Adam Ant, who's a real quirky, eccentric. That was a quirky, eccentric time it was a British invasion of sorts after the Beatles and the Kinks and Rolling Stones. It was an invasion of punky, alternative, new wavy kind of underground music that was kind of anti-establishment, kind of like punk rock. So he was a big part of that. He put a lot of devotion and spiritual. And it's kind of that music's also kind of messy. There's something kind of clouded and messy about it, but it has a lot of emotion. So there were more celebrities, believe it or not, today when I was researching celebrities for this week, going up to March 2nd or March 3rd. And if there's a few, I'll probably throw them into the next stream, next week's live stream. But as you can see from here, this kind of talent is truly amazing for the Pisces one person. And any of you that see this in the future, if you have a celebrity that's your favorite, a musician, singer, or actor or actress, or writer or author born this week, let me know who your favorite is born this week and why. Because this is pure Neptune. So this is a Pisces person dealing. It's like a double dose of Neptune, double dose, Neptune ruler and Neptune sub-ruler. So again, if you get your birth chart done and you're born this week, it's so vital that you know your Neptune placement, your houses, and the aspects. And if you have any proclivity to being psychic, or tuning into being able to communicate with animals, the spirit realm, and have a talent of speaking with people, or even sales in just day to day with the common people, with common folk. But there's a lot of potential here. But again, be careful of the drugs and alcohol, and sleeping pills too. I've met a lot of Pisces people that have had problems of bad side effects and stuff with sleeping pills. Again, I'm not a medical professional or a clinician. Please take that with a grain of salt. That's my medical disclaimer. Not a physician, not a medical professional, not a health professional. But I have anecdotally met a lot of people with Pisces Sun or Pisces in the chart that are very sensitive to those kinds of heavy drugs. So, it's always good to exercise caution. So let's see, we're at the hour mark here. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to talk about? Excuse me. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, Pisces born this week. We're at 5 degrees tonight. It's aligned with the constellation of Pisces. So the constellation dots, one of the dots kind of in the middle of the constellation, is a fixed star called Deneb Adig or Adig, Deneb Adig, A-D-I-G-E. And this is part of the constellation of Pisces. And it's around 5, 6, 7 degrees of Pisces. And it can denote psychic potential, which is interesting because I forgot about that. Psychic potential, it's very refined and gives a clever intellect with that strong emotional nature. And that's George Washington had that, Ted Kennedy, which he's had his problems, and Drew Barrymore, the actress who comes from a long line of Barrymore actors and actresses who have also had their share of problems in their life. And Drew is an addict or an ex-addict, as a child, child movie star, child actor, and got into drugs very early. Ted Kennedy, George Washington, all have this fixed star of Deneb Adig, psychic. And it also rules the left foot, apparently. So the left foot, whatever that means. So Pisces people could tend to have a lot of problems with their feet. So if you have a Pisces planet, depending on an angle in your chart, it's possible that you can give you foot problems with that. So that's a fixed star. Again, today's the full moon. Happy full moon. It's very prominent for Virgo moons and Pisces sun, but any Virgo or Pisces planets is getting a conjunction if you're early. If you're anywhere between 0 and like 10 degrees, you're getting a conjunction with today's full moon. And I wanted to thank you, subscribers. More of my subscribers are now watching my videos. So thank you. You're coming back and you're more devoted and watching more of my content and even watching some of my older content. Like some of my very old videos are doing well now. So that's great. That's wonderful to see. And so now I have 84% of you that are watching my videos, so 8 out of 10 are not subscribed. So it's a little better. 16% of my viewers in the last 30 days are subscribers. 84% of you are not subscribed. So again, if you watch this, please subscribe, hit the bell notification in your YouTube. In the profile there, you can see my Astroscoop. You can see the circle logo with the Mars motif there. Make sure you are subscribed to me. It's great if you just come back and watch my videos, but if you're not subscribed, you won't get the timely notifications. So make sure you're subscribed there, and then you can click all if you want every single video notification that I come out with, or if you just want it personalized. Depending on what you watch from me, the algorithm will personalize certain videos. You can do all personalized or none. You can subscribe to me and also get no notifications if you just want to come, manually when you're ready. So whatever you want to do. But please tell your family and friends, please subscribe. This is a tiny channel. It really helps. I want to get to 500 subscribers by April or May. By the spring, we got to get to 500 and beyond. So I really appreciate all that. And I appreciate if any of you people that I follow on Instagram or Twitter or X, I follow you and you follow me, and you know who you are. I appreciate the people that have been liking and reposting my stuff. I really appreciate that. And if you want me to mention you in these live streams, let me know. Don't be shy. Or you want to call me or something, or we could talk or chat. That would be great because I really appreciate every little repost and like is an engagement on X or Instagram, and then that's going to transfer over to YouTube. And I'll also do the same for you guys and gals as well in United States, UK, and Canada. Thank you. So we're going to wrap up. This was Astroscoop live stream number 9 for Pisces 1 people. Happy birthday to all Pisces now, from now until right up about March 19th. Happy birthday. And next week, we will just continue with the Pisces theme. We'll talk more about the Pisces 2 decadent, more celebrities. If there's anything specific you want me to mention next week that maybe I didn't cover tonight, or that you want to I could mention in the next couple of live streams, please leave a comment, or even send me a direct message on X. On X, it's it's Astro underscore, not dash, Astro underscore scoop, ASTRO underscore scoop. That's X. And on Instagram, it's at Astroscoop, or it's Astroscoop7. And YouTube here is at Astroscoop3801. It's hard to get those all straight. But thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you guys and gals next week. Be well and be safe.